Let's Talk Music is about learning from experienced professional musicians, about them sharing their experiences in their own words. Whether they're composers, educators, or performers, the goal is to help viewers understand some of the nuances of life in the music business, and perhaps help these viewers develop a better understanding of a career that they might be considering themselves. Now, my episode today is with Adonis Aletras, who lives in the island nation of Cyprus and is a working film, TV, and media composer with numerous credits around the world. His music can be heard on Emmy Award-winning television shows, and he's a voting member of the Television Academy for the Emmys and the Recording Academy for the Grammys. He's a graduate of the Berklee College of Music, and as a prolific member of BMI and PRS, he has published several thousand cues and songs. In his book, So You Want to Become a Media Composer, he shares nuggets of wisdom from 65 of the industry's most successful colleagues of his. As always, be sure to check for links in the description below so you can support Adonis and our channel. Now, let's talk music. All righty, folks. So let's get started with the interview. Adonis, you were born in Cyprus. Is that where you still
Right?
live?
That's where I still am. Yeah.
I'm going to borrow the 5 question concept and that I'll touch on with you in a few minutes here that from your book. But first, let's start with you as a musician. What are some of your earliest musical memories, and how did your personal experiences cause a young man in Cyprus to end up at the Berklee School of Music in Boston, Massachusetts?
Oh, great. Okay. I'm a guitar player, and I was into rock guitar and metal guitar. I was listening to guys like Eddie Van Halen and Steve Vai at the time. Right before I went to Berklee, Steve Vai joined the David Lee Roth band, and that record was like I've listened to and worn it out and played all the licks and stuff. And I was until that time I was basically a self-taught guitar player.
Mm.
And a friend of mine said, you got something happening. Maybe you should go to college, do something with it. And there's this great college in Boston, Massachusetts, where they don't do necessarily. It's not like a conservatory of classical music where I probably wouldn't have been accepted in any kind of conservatory. I needed something a little looser, and
Yeah.
so I applied to Berklee by myself, not even telling my parents that I applied. I just did it, and they wrote back to me. I sent them a demo that it was just me like doing tapping and doing all sorts of weird noises on the guitar. And they said, oh, well, that sounds good. And they offered me a partial scholarship. That was the tipping point, because I told my folks I got a partial scholarship and I really want to go and do something with this, because there was nothing else happening in my life. Music was my life,
Yeah.
So I went there, and I it was hard because, like I said, I was a self-taught. I could hardly read any music. I
Mm.
was like, quarter notes, and I just knew the first position on the instrument. And I came to the realization when I went there and I saw those wonderful, amazing players
Mm.
and the instructors, of course, that I really had to sit my ass down and work. I mean, my first instructor, when I told him that I wanted to learn how to play jazz, he goes to me, okay, so what can you play? I could barely play 12-bar blues, not
Yeah.
jazz blues.
Yeah.
And he goes to me, he leaned back, he had a stack of CDs, Wes Montgomery, people like that, George Benson. He gave me a dozen CDs, and he goes to me, go listen to these
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
and come back in a month. And
Okay.
that's what I did. Yeah. And I worked my ass off. I, I, I got an even better scholarship because I was getting good grades and stuff. And in 1991, I graduated.
Fantastic. Yeah, a lot of folks don't understand. I mean, I like you, I went to a world-renowned music school. I went to North Texas, and when you go there, you think you're good, you can play, and then you get surrounded by amazing musicians, and it's a very, very humbling experience. And in
Oh
my
man. Oh
experience,
man.
it's you'll either you realize, oh my gosh, I've got to get to work, or oh my gosh, this is not for me. I need to go do something else. And so you took the path of, I need to work hard. I need to learn how to read. I need to get better. I need to expand my internal catalog of what guitar music and what music in general is. And you obviously, hell, you got a scholarship to stay longer and you graduated. So
That's right.
my question number two, so you graduate in 91. What was your post-college musical experience like? What did you do when you graduate? What were you doing to make a living? What was the next steps, and then how did you eventually find film scoring, production music things? But what happened after college? Walk me through that timeline.
Okay. Once I graduated, I went to New York City for about a year, and I got a job in Carnegie Hall. Uh,
Wow. Okay.
I was working. Yeah, I know. I was working as a music copyist because I had a pretty good. I learned at Berklee. Uh, Back at the time, we were working with actual ink pens,
Yes.
and I was able to get a job in a company that was right above Carnegie Hall, and they were doing all these charts, not just for Carnegie Hall shows, but they were doing charts for uh, movies and jingle dates, and I met a lot of my, my real life education was not really Berklee. Berklee gave me the chops to be able to. But once I got to New York City and did that for about a year and a half, I realized that it was how the real music industry was like.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, New York City took a big toll on me because I was just barely making minimum wage, even though I was working in a good company. I was at the first step of the ladder,
Yeah.
and I mean, I was living on mac and cheese for
Yeah.
yeah. And at some point, I thought I, I I can't stay there anymore. So I took a flight back home, and when I flew back home, I realized that it was a lot easier for me. When I was in New York City, I was a small fish in an amazingly huge pond.
Yeah.
But when I went back home, it was the opposite. So I got together with some other Berklee graduates, and we did the live music thing for about a decade.
Oh, okay.
I played thousands of gigs. I
Yep.
mean, concerts, weddings, you know the deal.
Same thing.
That's right. And during that 10-year period that I was doing the live thing and teaching music, of course, I also started writing music, mostly for the bands that I was playing in, but also music that was my personal stuff, that it wasn't necessarily geared towards a funk gig or just making an arrangement of a jazz standard.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine who was already, he had an established career in America. He's a cinematographer. He did some amazing projects. He told me, you should get your music out there. And I was like, well, how do I get my music out there? I thought my music was out there just from on the basis that once I recorded it, it was out there, but it really wasn't.
Right.
That's when I discovered Taxi. The internet was just blossoming, and the online thing was, yeah, Google was happening, all the great stuff that right now maybe we takes that stuff for granted, but at the time
Yeah.
was just everything was blossoming and exploding. And I discovered Taxi.
Was this back in the late
I did my
90s?
due di- That's probably 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Since because 91 I graduated, so I did the live thing for about 10 years, and that brings it to the 2K, 2YK, 2000s. I discovered Taxi and I did my due diligence. I realized that it was, there was no scams. A lot of
Yeah.
people think that, oh, they just want your money. It wasn't
Right.
like that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did that for about 2 or 3 years, just sending in stuff, getting the rejections, getting some forwards, and
Right.
when I got the hang of it, then things really started cooking. Yeah, I was getting, still am getting, not as a taxi member, but because I was a taxi member,
Right.
I was getting placements all over the place, and I got the hang of not just how to read the listings and compose the right material for the listings, but also the production chops was
Right.
needed, yeah,
Yes.
to make, as they say, a taxi broadcast quality,
Hmm.
which was something that eluded me for a few years. But once I got the hang of that, then things are really happening for me. And at some point, I was getting enough work to stop my membership at Taxi. Of course, I have a wonderful relationship with the company and with Michael, and we have common friends that
Right.
yeah, and we've all blossomed and became either uh, good composers. Some other people they began their own libraries,
Right.
and yeah, a whole bunch of us happened in that time frame to get together and uh, benefit tremendously from the taxi experience, which is something that I will always cherish.
I've had the same exact experience. We followed similar paths, although you were ahead of me. In hindsight, I wish I found Taxi in the 2000s. I didn't join until 2015. So which is
Oh,
interesting because you got
okay.
into the business at a good time. And I think the industry is changed since then and continues to change. Curious, before I get to question three, how many tracks do you think you have in libraries today? A couple thousand?
Oh, more than that, more
Okay.
than that.
And that's the thing,
I
it's a
got
long
I got
game.
about, yeah, it's a long game. I got about, okay, I'm both a member of BMI, that's for the PRO in America, and I'm also PRS in Europe.
Okay.
I was just checking a few hours ago, actually, before we did the interview. My BMI stands at around 2,800, and
Okay.
my PRS is around 975.
Wow. That's a
And we're
lot.
talking different. It's a lot, and they're different tracks. They're not shared between the two.
Right.
Yes, so
Fantastic.
I'm close to 3,000.
Fantastic. I'm halfway there. I'm about 1,500 right now. So
Well, that's good.
but it's I mean, I'm averaging 200 250 tracks a year, and I think you have to, if you're looking to make money, use this business as your primary source of income.
Oh,
um
absolutely.
I was looking. I've seen some of your interviews and some of your other content, and we both know the most common question out there for people in the business are, what's your advice for people that are starting out? It's a very common question. It's very difficult to answer. But you said in the past that as composers, we're playing a numbers game. The number of tracks you've got to create every year, and it takes time to build a catalog. So can you expand on I mean, generally, I think we both agree the most common answer to new folks in the industry is you've got to build a catalog, you've got to work hard and work regularly. So can you expand on your thoughts of what it takes to build a catalog, and how to get noticed?
Sure. Yes, it is a question that gets asked very, very often, and it's it boils down to a few things. The I would start by saying that if you really want to do this, you have to um, I would say it's a good starting point to listen to what is being used nowadays in various television shows or movies, what the industry needs and what the industry uses. Okay, because let's say you're a great guitar player or you're a great sax player. Okay, um, if you have 1,000 guitar tracks with blistering solos where all you do is showing off your chops, and I respect your chops, okay, in all probability you'll never be able to use those tracks that you've recorded over the years
Right.
because they're not in demand. So you have to figure out how do you fit in the demands of the industry? What can he offer as a musician, as a composer, and as an instrumentalist, of course? What can he offer that can be used in any given project? So you have to adapt. You really have to adapt. And even though I'm a guitar player, I would say that 9 out of 10 of the tracks that I have signed, and we just said that I have thousands of tracks signed. 9 out of 10, well, maybe 8 out of 10 of those tracks really have no guitar in them. Yeah.
Funny how that works.
So, yeah, or if they do have guitar, it's not in a way that says, "Oh, I'm a Berklee guitar player." It has nothing to do with that.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that was one of the great lessons that I've learned from Taxi when I read the listings, to figure out what the person on the other end wants from you.
Yes.
If you can figure that out and figure out the demand and see how you fit there, if you can produce music that will be in demand, eventually you're going to start building a catalog that actually works, not just building a catalog. Anybody can build a catalog. What you need to do is be able to build a catalog that will be in demand. And that's what I and you have made possible over the years. And that means adapting. That means writing for the brief.
Yes.
And always expect that you will hear no more times than you will hear a yes, and learn from that.
Absolutely. Truer words have never been spoken. This is a service industry. We are providing a service. Our goal when writing cues is not to show off our chops and show that we're virtuosos and how learned we are in music theory and composition and performance. Our goal is to meet the demands of our client. They're looking for a mood. They want their music to work, and it doesn't matter how good you are. If the mood doesn't fit, you've got to adapt. That's one of the big takeaways for me during our time together already. Fantastic words. So you go to Berklee, you try New York. It's a horrible place for a lot of folks. I couldn't even bring myself to go to New York. So kudos to you if you're doing that. You realize it's very difficult, very expensive, very competitive. You go back home, you establish your network there, you grow your live presence there, you start writing there, composing there, growing the business, and now you've got production music. And then suddenly you decide you want to write a book. And so in 2018 you produce this book. There we go. I'll put a link in the description for you. This book, it's a fantastic read. It reads so well. You interviewed 65 different industry experts, composers, performers, engineers, admins, our moderators in the community. Names like Steve Vai. We have a separate half-hour call just on your conversation with him alone. Tina Guo, who I think is amazing in so many ways. Great people there. So what made you decide to write a book, and what did you learn from that process?
Okay, the book, I didn't write the book because I wanted to write a book. The book was a result. I'm one of the admins in a Facebook forum called Perspective, a forum for media composers, and those interviews that exist in the book, the 5-question type format that exists in the book, I was actually doing those questions for the forum initially. And it became like a weekly thing. I did one person first. I did a great video games composer called Austin Wintery, which we became friends ever since. And Austin was kind enough I reached out to him and he said, "Sure, man, I'll do it for you." And once I did the first couple of interviews, then a lot of people either reached out to me, or it was easier for me to reach out to other people, because some of these people work through agents. It wasn't just like writing an email to someone and getting them on board. I had to jump through some hoops to get some of these people to join in. But because I established the momentum, at some point it became a lot easier. and that's how I got people like Steve Vai and Tina Guo and other amazing people to chime in as well. At some point when I did like 60, 70 interviews, I thought to myself, you know what? This is a great, this stuff needs to be archived in a manner that goes away from Facebook in a tangible form,
Right.
so that if somebody wants to read these amazing interviews, they can either get it in a book. It's also available on Kindle, so you can get the digital version if you want as well.
Yeah.
So I started organizing the material. It took me about 6 months, doing it on and off in between writing music and doing the composition stuff. And then I did the self-publishing thing through Amazon. This is the rights to this book belong completely to me. This is not, it hasn't gone through a publisher. I did and I'm very happy for it because I learned a lot doing the self-publishing thing on Amazon. And a lot of money that I made from the book went to cancer charity. And it's been, I'm sorry.
You're doing well, though. We're almost done.
It's been a tremendous experience putting this book together.
Well, so it's a fantastic collection. I think interviews with industry experts are so insightful. You can find common themes about persistence, about not giving up, hard work. These days, society, a lot of people think things should be easy, should be free, no conflict, no suffering. That's completely wrong. We both lived on ramen and mac and cheese when we were out of school. You have to struggle. That's the way things are. So my last question, we've got about 5 minutes or so left. And I appreciate you struggling through. I know you got a little under the weather today.
It's all right.
The industry continues to change. Some say the market might be saturated with composers. The music creation tools are getting better and better. Sounds in the box are just more and more better. Tina Guo's cello library is one of my favorites. She's fantastic. It's just such a good cello library. Yeah, you use it too. We also have the threat of artificial intelligence created music is starting to become a thing. I think certain genres today already might be at risk of easy creation, low cost creation. And it seems that more people are trying to take advantage of the writers and not only want publishers share, but they're asking for writers share now. So we've got competition in the form of people, in the form of computers, in the form of, other business folks that want the money. So what are your thoughts on the state of the industry today for composers and how things might progress in the future? And is there anything you're doing to future-proof yourself?
That's a very good question. And it's something that has been circling in my mind for I'd say the last few months, especially with the AI thing coming in look, I always say that, as far as technology goes, there has always been, throughout the years, there's always been something that threatened musicians. But when there was like the CDs, there was Napster, there were the drum machines that replaced drummers, there are sample libraries that are replacing musicians. It's surely if you get in the mindset that oh my God, this is the end, mentally it will be the end for you. What we need to be doing is always remember that first of all, like I mentioned earlier, we need to adapt and see how these technologies can be to our benefit, and exploit those technologies. I mean, we'll use sample libraries now. If I use Tina Guo's library, I know that since I paid for it, she gets a cut. So it's not really, I may not be able to use her or hire her, but she gets a cut from the library. So it's not really the end of the world if I'm using a sample library that a good musician make. If anything, it makes me sound good. It makes you sound good. Yeah. Now, as far as AI goes, artificial intelligence, the intelligence may be artificial, but talent is not artificial. You cannot, even the best AI engine it's talentless. And only humans have talent. Only humans have emotions. Okay, so that's what we bring to the table. We bring our talent, our emotions, our backgrounds, how I grew up, how you grew up, what makes us who we are. And if we can bring those things to the table, no artificial intelligence machine will ever replace us, because that's what it is. It's just artificial intelligence. Human emotions and the way, you play a beautiful melody on your saxophone that maybe it's improvised or maybe you thought of it before, it doesn't matter, because no machine will ever will be you. You bring to the table what you bring to the table, as I do as well.
Agree. I think, you said multiple times in our conversation today about adapting. You have to adapt, and you can't just sit back and think the world revolves around me and will accept what I do. You have to be flexible. We are servants serving our clientele. And I think that while AI may pose a threat in some situations, if we learn how to use it as a tool, treat AI just like a drum machine or a sample library and make it part of your arsenal instead of becoming a victim to it, I think we'll be okay. Well, Adonis,
Yeah, I think so as well.
It's been fantastic.
Paul,
I appreciate your time.
It's been
This
you got it, man, anytime.
It's a lot of fun. We could probably do another. Maybe we'll do a part 2. Who knows? But this was great, and I will make sure I have links in the description below. Guys and gals watching, go get the book. It's a fantastic read.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's happy to promote it. And at the end of the day, final words, any words of encouragement to the folks out there that want to pursue music as a career?
Sure. This has probably been said before, but if music is the only thing you want to do in your life, and you're able to sustain a living doing music, it's the best job in the world. Every time I'm in my studio and I write music, it never feels like work. Never. Work for me is the administrative stuff.
Yeah. Metadata.
Putting in the metadata and signing contracts and all that stuff. That's the work. But if you do music and it doesn't feel like work to you, then you got to do it. Okay. If it feels like a chore to you, then it's not the easiest career. And we got to be honest about that. But if you feel good doing it, then by all means do it. It's and it's work on what it's like an athlete. If you want to be an Olympic athlete, you got to practice every day, write every day, play every day. There's a muscle in there that needs to be worked every day. You don't wake up one day. Even John Williams did not wake up one day and be who he is. He's 91 years old and he still writes music,
Very
so that's my last piece of advice.
Awesome. Right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you meeting up with me, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime soon. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.